My husband's family left my son out in the rain. I didn't say a word. I simply turned away and took everything back in my son's name. I got off my shift just before midnight. My hands still smelled like grease, the apron soaked through. Hurricane Humberto whipped at my skin like lashes, every cold drop slicing through the thin fabric of my shirt. I had only one thought in mind: Jose, my 4-year-old son. But when I turned onto the red brick walkway leading up to the house, my heart nearly stopped. Jose was curled up on the porch. His shirt clung to his body, soaked through. His little hands trembled from the cold, his mouth quivering as he whimpered, "Mom!" I rushed forward, scooped him into my arms. "Jose!" My voice cracked. His small body shivered against my chest. He was freezing, soaked to the bone. My hands trembled as I pulled him tighter, as if my embrace could chase away the cold and the abandonment. "I'm here, baby. Mama's got you," I whispered, like somehow my love could make it all okay. And then I heard her voice, cold and sharp. "Home late, Lydia?" Emery, my mother-in-law, stood in the doorway, arms crossed, face like stone. "I told you, I'm not raising an unwanted child. You and him, out of my house." "Why?" I screamed, my voice louder than the rain. "He's your grandson. How could you leave him out here?" Jose clutched at my shirt, crying harder. Emery's expression didn't change. "James is dead," she said, her tone like she was talking about garbage left out in the yard. "You don't belong in this house. Live with it." Clara, my sister-in-law, appeared behind her, smirking like a knife. "You and your kid are a burden," Clara sneered. "Keep clinging, Lydia." She kicked my bag out onto the porch, clothes and Jose's toys scattered in the storm. My blood boiled. "He's your nephew," I shouted, but Emery just stared at me, her eyes void of emotion. "Leave," she said, as if we were strangers. "You want to raise him? Do it somewhere else, not in my home." "You're insane. This is James's house." My voice broke, not for myself, but for Jose. "He's James's son." But Emery had already turned her back. "It's my house now," she said. Clara's laughter followed, sharp and mocking, as the door slammed shut. The porch light blinked off. It was just me, Jose, and the storm. For a moment, I stood there frozen. Rain mixed with the tears I refused to let fall. For years, I had tried to earn a place in this family, hoping one day I wouldn't be the outsider. But now, barefoot, cast out, I had only Jose in my arms and his old teddy bear between us and the world. I whispered into his damp hair, "I've got you, baby. I'm here. We're gonna be okay." I didn't believe it yet, but I had to let him believe. I stepped off the porch, feet sinking into a puddle, my body running on instinct. I didn't know where I was going, just that I had to get away from that house, those voices, that pain. The rain poured like it wanted to wash everything away. I just held Jose tighter. I had left my own family to be with James, left the city I knew for a life with him, and lost him in an accident 2 months ago. Now I was a 27-year-old widow, living in James's house, a place I had never truly been welcomed in by his family. And now, my son was left outside like an unwanted object, and me, widow of their own blood, was thrown out like a leech. The storm wouldn't stop. The streets were drowned in darkness and water. Every house on either side had gone dark. Not a single light beckoned. Not a single door opened. Then, a car horn. Headlights swept across my face. I turned my head, but it was too late. I barely had time to pull Jose tightly against my chest, turning my back to the light. The impact hit out of nowhere, sudden and brutal. The air was knocked out of me as I slammed onto the pavement, pain shooting from my hip, but my arms never let go of my son. I didn't let go of Jose. Through the pain, through the rain, all I could feel were his tiny fingers clinging to me. The last thing I saw before everything went black was a shadow leaning down. Rain dripped from his sleeves. His voice came through, loud and urgent. "Hey! Hey, wake up!" When I opened my eyes, the world was too bright. The rain had stopped, replaced by harsh fluorescent lights above me. I didn't know where I was or why. My body felt like lead. Every breath belonged to someone else. Then fear hit me like a fist to the chest. Jose. I tried to sit up, the room spinning so hard I nearly collapsed back onto the pillow. My ribs ached. My head throbbed. Then I saw him. My son. He was lying quietly in a white crib, still holding his old teddy bear, his cheeks flushed pink from warmth. I burst into tears. "The boy's completely fine," a man's voice said gently. "You took the full hit for him." A deep, steady voice cut through the fog in my head, pulling my gaze toward the corner of the room. Relief flooded me, so sharp it hurt. My hand trembled as I reached for Jose, my fingers brushing his soft little body. The tears came before I could stop them. Not the ugly sobs I'd choked back for years, but silent, exhausted tears. "You're awake," the voice said again. I turned toward it. A man was sitting in the corner. He looked mid-30s, tall, dark hair combed back neatly. His face held worry, his eyes full of guilt. He sat there like he didn't quite belong. "I'm Lucas," he said simply, standing up and walking over. I was the driver. I'm sorry." The words hit me, heavy, but before I could react, he added, "You're both safe now." My voice was thin. "Why? Why did you stay?" He didn't hesitate. "Because no one deserves to be lying in the rain with a child in their arms." I looked at him, unsure what to think. He didn't seem like the kind of man who stopped for strangers in a storm. He looked like someone important, too busy, too polished. But he was here. Before I could ask more, a doctor walked in, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes. "Lydia," she said, glancing at the chart. "You've got a mild concussion and bruised ribs. No fractures. You're lucky. Your son is perfectly fine." She left after a few instructions I barely heard. The words "perfectly fine" kept looping in my mind. Thank God. Then I saw the teddy bear in Jose's crib, drier than before but still muddy. I reached for it, intending to clean it, when I felt something hard inside. Curious, I followed the torn seam, and my heart skipped a beat. A small, folded piece of paper, hidden in the stuffing. I opened it with shaking hands. James's will. I read it once, twice, 3 times, 4. The words clawed at my heart. James hadn't abandoned us. He had left the house to Jose, not Emery. Suddenly everything made sense. Emery had lied, forged a will to steal her own son's assets. The tears wouldn't stop. "Are you okay?" The man's voice cut through my thoughts. "I paid the hospital bill." "You paid the bill?" I asked, eyes still on the paper, noticing a receipt on the table that wasn't mine. Lucas shrugged. "Taken care of. Don't worry." "I didn't ask you to," I said, my voice catching. He looked straight at me. It was the right thing to do. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to refuse. But my throat was dry, and his kindness, in the very night I was cast out by my husband's family, left me speechless. I looked at Lucas longer, trying to read him. The clothes, the expensive watch, his composure. He wasn't just some good Samaritan. He belonged to a world I'd only seen on TV or from behind doors I'd never be invited through. "You said your name's Lucas," I repeated. "Lucas Hart," he replied. The name sounded like it belonged in a news story or a magazine profile about people I'd never meet. "Do you have anywhere to go?" he asked after a pause. I laughed, bitter and faint. He hesitated, like he already knew my answer but didn't want to pressure me. "If you don't, I have a guest house in the suburbs. It's nothing fancy, but it's clean, quiet, safe. You and your son can stay there until you find something else." I blinked at him, my mind wrestling with the words. A safe place. Things like that didn't exist in my world. "You don't even know me," I said. His expression softened, like he understood more than I realized. Maybe not. But I know what it's like to need a home on a stormy night. I looked back at Jose, at the bruise on my shoulder, and I thought of the cold, wet porch. The wooden door slammed in my face. When I nodded, small, hesitant, I didn't know I was about to change the course of my life, and I had no idea that Lucas's guest house looked like it had stepped out of a magazine. The next morning, Lucas drove me and Jose out of the city. The rain-soaked streets gradually gave way to winding roads lined with towering oak trees, raindrops still clinging to the leaves, glistening as they fell. My ribs still ached with every bump in the road, but Jose slept soundly in the car seat beside me, unbothered by the world. I kept my hand over his chest the whole ride, as if my touch alone could keep him safe forever. When the car began to slow, I thought we'd gotten lost. The driveway stretched endlessly ahead, flanked by lantern posts and perfectly trimmed hedges. At the end of the path stood a massive house. No, a mansion, like something out of a luxury magazine, with white columns, a wraparound porch, and windows that seemed to glow with their own light. Tucked beside it, beneath blooming azalea bushes, was the guest house Lucas had mentioned. It was bigger than any place I'd ever lived. Lucas parked, stepped out, and grabbed Jose's bag before I could reach for it. "Come on," he said gently. "You're gonna like it." I followed him, my sneakers squeaking against the wet stone walkway. My heart pounded, not from fear, but from that sharp feeling of not belonging, like I had wandered somewhere I shouldn't be. Inside, the guest house smelled faintly of vanilla and clean linen. 2 bedrooms with fluffy white duvets, a kitchen stocked with food, and sunlight pouring in through spotless windows. The bathroom had fresh towels, even baby soap placed next to the tub. "This place isn't for someone like me," I blurted out before I could stop myself. Lucas glanced at me, raising an eyebrow. "Someone like you? You mean people who deserve to be safe?" I opened my mouth to reply, but the words stuck. He placed Jose's bag on a chair, gave a small nod, and left me to the quiet. Not long after, a woman appeared at the door. "Lydia, right?" she asked, stepping inside like she owned the place. She looked to be in her late 50s, with short silver hair and the kind of confidence that made the whole room go still. "I'm Martha. I keep this place running when Lucas is busy." She helped me unpack Jose's things, chatting like we'd known each other forever. Noticing how little I spoke, she paused and looked at me. Really looked. "If you're waiting for some kind of setup, there isn't one," she said, her voice warm but firm. "Lucas. He's a good man." Her words hit somewhere deep inside me, where doubt still gnawed. That evening, Lucas returned with a bag of groceries and a pack of diapers and wipes. "Figured you might need these," he said, placing them on the kitchen counter like it was no big deal. I stared at the bag, then at him. "Why are you doing this?" He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Because someone helped me once when I had nothing. I promised I'd pay it forward." In that moment, I saw him differently. Not as the man who hit me, but as someone who'd once stood where I was now. That night, after Jose fell asleep, I stood by the window holding the old teddy bear. It now carried a faint hospital scent, but still held the weight of the night before. The porch, the rain, Emery's voice like a curse. You bring shame to this house. Even in a place this dreamlike, her words clung to me. Lucas stopped by before leaving that morning. Seeing me by the window, he said softly, "One day you'll realize you deserve more than just surviving, Lydia." I wanted to believe him. I truly did. But I only nodded. For the first time in months, Jose slept peacefully. I didn't. The past has a way of gripping you, even when you think you've left it behind. 2 weeks passed at Lucas's guest house, and for the first time in years, my life had a rhythm. I woke to Jose's babbling, the faint scent of coffee in the kitchen, not to Emery's morning shouting. Lucas dropped by every few days, never overbearing, just checking in to make sure we were okay. Martha brought groceries, doted on Jose, called him her little gentleman. It wasn't perfect, but it was peace, or at least, something close to it. One evening after work, I sat on the floor with Jose, watching him roll around on his old teddy bear. He giggled, kicked his feet, and I allowed myself to smile. For a fleeting moment, I believed we were safe. But peace never lasts when your in-laws think you don't deserve it. Wednesday morning, slowest shift of the week at the diner. I was pouring coffee at table 4 when it hit me. That weight in my chest, like instinct sounding the alarm. I didn't need to turn around. Her voice came first. "This is what your life's come to, Lydia?" I turned. Emery stood just inside the door, dressed for church, eyes scanning the place like it reeked. Clara clung beside her, like a poisonous shadow. "Oh," she said loudly enough for the whole room to hear. "I thought you'd left town by now. Or what? Still haven't found a place that suits a leech?" Clara sneered. "Or maybe found some rich guy to play daddy for your kid." I froze, coffee pot heavy in my hand. Every eye in the diner was on me. My coworker Ella glanced over but said nothing. No one ever did. I swallowed hard, set the pot down. "You need to leave." My voice was low, almost steady. Emery raised an eyebrow. "Leave?" "Oh no, sweetheart. We came to remind you. You owe us, for the shame you brought to our family. Don't think hiding behind some man will erase that." My hand shook as I wiped my apron. "You left your grandson out in the rain," I said, quieter than I intended. Emery's lips curled. "And I'd do it again." Her words cut deeper than I expected. Then she laid a sealed envelope on the counter, tapping it twice with her fingertip. I glanced at it. Petition for verification of minor child custody. Clara stepped closer, whispering, but loud enough. "You have 2 choices. Leave town, or lose custody of Jose. She has lawyers, she has money. And you? What do you have?" Her laugh was sharp, slicing through my gut. They turned to leave like victors, stepping out as if their mission was complete. I ran to the bathroom before my knees gave out. I locked the door, slid to the floor, and let silent tears stream down. In my head, I heard Lucas's voice again. "You deserve more than just surviving." But in that moment, surviving was the only thing I knew how to do. When I got home, I tried to hide it, pretended it was just a bad day. But Lucas noticed. He always did. "You're quiet tonight," he said, leaning on the guest house doorframe. "Rough shift?" "Just a bad day," I lied, forcing a weak smile. He didn't push. He just waited. The silence pressed on my chest until it cracked. "They came to the diner. Emery, Clara, they..." My voice broke. "She said she'd leave Jose out there again. Like he's nothing." Lucas's face hardened. They only have power if you let them take you apart piece by piece, he said, calm but firm. I didn't answer. But that night, staring at the ceiling while Jose slept peacefully beside me, his words carved themselves into me. I realized silence hadn't kept me safe. It had only made me easier to hurt, and they weren't going to stop. I clenched my fists. I would protect Jose, no matter what it cost me. I spent the entire next week at the city library, every day bringing Jose and a notebook with me. Whenever he slept, I would sit there, combing through every line of text I had printed from the public computer, protective orders in Alabama, custody rights for single mothers, preventing family harassment. Every article, every legal term felt like a small piece of armor I was building for me and Jose. I felt a flicker of hope, as if maybe I could build a life they couldn't touch. That night, I held my phone, heart pounding. I typed a message to Emery, each word like a blade I carved into myself. Don't come near me or my son again. This is your only warning. I hit send, my hands trembling. Her reply came faster than I expected. You think you can threaten me? You'll be on your knees begging. You always do. Her words hit like a punch, but I didn't cry. I deleted the message, unnervingly calm. If they wanted war, I'd show them I wasn't prey anymore. The next morning, Lucas knocked on the door. You okay? He asked. You look like you haven't slept a minute, he finally said. I forced a strained smile. That obvious? I told him about the texts, about the will. He wasn't surprised. Then you need to stop them. I have a friend, Attorney Hargrove. He's good. He'll verify the will and help you. I hesitated, wanting to tell him I already owed him too much. But Lucas went on. You don't have to do this alone. I nodded, feeling like I had just crossed a new line. Hargrove, a man in his early 60s with silver hair and a calm yet razor-sharp presence, met me at his office. He looked over the will, the small paper hidden inside the teddy bear, and nodded. It's valid. James left the house to Jose, not Emery. She has no claim. He paused, looked at me. But they won't back down easily. Do you want to protect your son? We can file for a restraining order based on Emery leaving Jose out in the rain. I nodded, my voice steadier than I felt. Do it. Hargrove got to work, and I felt taller, as if my feet were finally standing on solid ground. But Emery struck back quickly. A week later, I received a summons. She had filed for visitation rights. In the petition, she implied I was financially unstable, without a permanent home, and therefore unfit to raise Jose. But I knew. It wasn't about Jose. She wanted the house, wanted control, wanted to erase me. Clara spread rumors all over town, saying I forged the will, that I was a parasite scamming the family. The whispers in the diner, the prying looks from customers, made my chest ache. But I didn't fight back. I was waiting for court. Every night I reminded myself, I don't need them to see me as family. But I will not let them lay a hand on my son. Not ever again. The hearing took place on a drizzly morning, inside a small county courthouse with low ceilings and old wooden benches that smelled damp. I wore a white blouse. Jose sat in the back row with Martha. He didn't cry. He just stared at me, as if he understood today was the day his mother had to stand up. For both of us. Emery and Clara sat across from me, their faces unnervingly composed. Emery wore a pale lavender suit and a string of pearls, Clara in a pastel designer dress. They looked like they'd come to be admired, not judged. As I passed by, Emery leaned in just enough to whisper, You won't take my grandson from me. I froze, but Lucas gently touched my back and whispered, Don't be afraid. I didn't answer. I kept walking. The hearing began. Emery's lawyer, an older man with a smug demeanor, launched his attack immediately. "Your Honor," he said smoothly, "Lydia is unfit to be a mother. She is dependent on a man who is not her husband, living in his guest house, and has acted irrationally by preventing the grandmother from seeing her grandson. My client is concerned about the child's living environment." Clara took the stand, lying without blinking. "I've seen her neglect Jose," she said, one hand to her chest like a martyr. "She doesn't care for him properly. They called me unstable, a potential emotional threat. Every word felt like a slap. My hands trembled beneath the table. I wanted to scream they were liars, but I remembered Lucas's words, "Don't play their game." When it was our turn, Hargrove stood, slow and steady, like he had all the time in the world. "Your Honor," he began, calm but sharp, "we are here because my client is protecting her son from individuals who have already placed him in harm's way." He turned on a small projector, displaying an image of Jose, soaked, sitting on a doorstep, a still pulled from a neighbor's security camera, submitted as evidence. "This is what happened under their care," Hargrove continued, "and this is James's legal will, leaving the house to his son, Jose." He held up the folded paper from the teddy bear. His voice made the whole room go still. The judge, a woman with stern eyes, flipped through the images, then looked at Emery. "Mrs. Brooks, is this true?" Emery faltered, just for a second. "The image is distorted," she muttered, but the confidence had cracked. When it was my turn to speak, my hands still shook, but my voice didn't. "My mother-in-law doesn't want to visit my son," I said, looking directly at the judge. "She wants to control me. She wants to take the home my son was left, and I won't let that happen." My words landed, heavy, undeniable. Emery glared at me, warning in her eyes, but for the first time, I saw her as small. "I don't have a powerful family name. I don't have a fancy title. But I have one thing, Jose, and I will do everything to protect my child, even if it means going to war with the family I once called my own." The judge looked down at the file, then at me. He didn't nod. He didn't offer easy words. He just slowly turned the pen in his fingers, then said, "I'll issue a final ruling within 48 hours. But based on what's been presented, the petitioner has not proven a threat from the respondent, and the will is valid." I walked out of the courtroom. Not a victory, not a defeat, but in my heart, I knew. We had taken our voice back, and I whispered to myself, as long as I have Jose, I still have a home. That night, in the quiet of the guest house, Lucas handed me a cup of tea and sat across from me. "Today, you didn't just protect yourself," he said, his voice low. "You made her afraid." I sighed, my eyes fixed on Jose, sleeping peacefully in his crib. "Good," I said. "Let her know I'm not afraid anymore." For the first time, I hadn't just survived Emery. I had beaten her. But victory doesn't erase the scars. It only reminds you why you survived in the first place. A month passed, and the silence that once felt unfamiliar now resembled the hush of a room after everyone's gone. Slowly, I let myself sink into it. Mornings no longer began with a weight pressing on my chest. Instead, I woke to the patter of Jose's feet on the wooden floor, his laughter echoing through the house as Martha hummed an old folk tune in the kitchen. That morning, sunlight slipped through the curtains, laying golden threads across Lucas's garden. Jose toddled between the flower beds, clutching a dandelion like a treasure. I sat on the porch, sipping the tea Martha had left me. For the first time in years, peace didn't feel like something borrowed. It was mine. The restraining order had been granted 2 weeks earlier, and just like that, Emery's petition for visitation dissolved. Hargrove said it wasn't surprising. Abusers rarely want their behavior scrutinized in court. Clara still screamed into the void of the internet, posting venomous rants. "Ungrateful leech," one post read. "Living off pity, playing the victim." I didn't bother responding. Let her scream into the void. I wasn't listening anymore. We returned to the old house. The pale blue door still bore scratches, peeling paint, a record of time and neglect. I slid the key into the lock. It clicked softly, like the house remembered who once belonged to it. Jose ran in first, his small feet thudding on the wooden floor, then plopped down in the middle of the living room, laughing as sunlight streamed through the window and danced across his old teddy bear. I walked from room to room, my hand brushing over tabletops, cabinet doors, paint-chipped walls. Nothing was perfect, but for the first time, it felt like everything was waiting to come back to life. I rehung the freshly washed white curtains, placed a small pot of lavender on the windowsill, rinsed the ceramic mug James once used, then made myself a cup of ginger tea. I sat on the porch steps. Jose leaned against me, teddy bear nestled between his arms. A soft breeze passed, carrying the scent of damp earth and new leaves. Far off, a car engine revved and faded. No one knocked. No one called my name. We were alone. And that was a gift. That night, I opened a plain white envelope, the final letter from the lawyer, confirmation of the completed house transfer. At the bottom, James's signature curved softly. His J always had a little swirl, like a whisper. I folded it, carefully, tucked it inside an old book on the shelf. No need to frame it or flaunt it. Just a quiet knowing. It had once been hidden. And now I had brought it back into the light. I wasn't angry at Emery anymore. I didn't need her to understand. All I knew was, if one day she showed up again, standing at the door, I wouldn't yell. I would say one thing. "This is my son's home, and you don't get to enter." Then I'd close the door, gently, but firmly. That night, I sat by the window with my journal, Jose asleep in the crib beside me. For the first time, I was writing not out of despair, but out of hope. I used to think I needed an apology from Emery to heal. Not anymore. Healing belonged to me now. I wrote about breaking the cycle, for Jose, so he would never grow up believing love was control, or that family meant enduring abuse in silence. The next morning, sunlight poured across the porch, blanketing the flower beds Lucas had planted. Jose ran, giggling, clutching his teddy bear, holding up a daisy like it was a prize. I sat in my chair, sipping the tea Martha had brought, and the peace didn't feel borrowed anymore. It was mine. Then I heard a car. Lucas stepped out, his smile quiet as always, but behind him were my parents. My father still walked with the same slow, careful steps as he did when I was little. And my mother, she held a basket of bread, and in her hand a sprig of lavender trimmed just right. We looked at each other for a long time. No one cried. No one blamed. "That's Grandma and Grandpa," I whispered to Jose, eyes still on them. Lucas stood nearby, silent, but his gaze said he understood. "We're here, Lydia," my mother said, her voice trembling. She handed me the basket, softly, like an apology without words. "Can we come in?" she asked. I opened the door, said nothing. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to brace myself when someone crossed that threshold. We sat around the kitchen table. Not many words, just the clink of spoons and tea, the babble of Jose calling out, "Grandpa! Grandma!" I looked around the room, the place that had once been a storm, now filled only with light. That evening, after everyone had gone, Jose and I sat on the porch again. The breeze was gentle, a blanket wrapped around us both. He leaned into me, warm and breathing steady. I looked out at the yard, once a place where no one waited, now marked by footsteps of family, of forgiveness, and of something I never thought I'd have again. A sense of belonging. I didn't need to be anyone's daughter-in-law or sister or wife. I just needed to be Jose's mother. And myself. With my head held high. I had once walked away from a house, but today, a home, came back for me.